right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Coach Harvey. You just told me where you coach. I'm going to screw it up. At Hutto High School. Did I say that
Yes,
right?
Hutto. Yep, the Hutto Hippos. Yes, sir.
Hutto Hippos. All
That's it.
right.
Only one in the country. We're kind of unique in that area, so it's fun, man.
That's a good name. There's a place up here. There are the Shells, and there's another one called the Bunnies. So Hugh Hefner visited them because they were the Bunnies.
There you go.
So before he passed away years ago, he visited them. My school's called the Blazers. It's not as cool as the Hippos. That's cool. I'm gonna be on that for another minute. Like that's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a neat deal. Like if you drive around town, there's a lot of ceramic cement hippos in the front yards of towns, or excuse me, businesses, townhomes, homes, all of it. And so people have really embraced it. And there's a whole story about, I don't know, early 1900s where there was a circus running through town, and they had some trailer issues, so they stopped on the side of the road. Well, one of the hippos got loose and takes off to the middle of downtown, what is now established as Hutto. So it's kind of got a ring to it, the Hutto Hippos. You got two T's in the town of the name, and two P's in the Hippos. And so, yeah, people eat it up, man. In fact, we're building a freshman center right now that'll be open in the fall. That's eventually going to be high school number 2. The growth around here in the Northeast Austin area is just ridiculous. And so the town came together. There was a big city council meeting and the school board, and everybody came together and like, what are we going to do? We've got 2 high schools now. We can't move on from the Hippos. And so we're going to have the Hutto High Hippos and the Hutto North Hippos when that becomes a full-fledged high school. So there's going to be 2 in the country about 2.5 miles from one another.
That's crazy. I think everybody's just moving to Texas, though. I think that's the problem.
There are several people coming out here, absolutely. So
it's on my list. I'm trying to get the girlfriend to. We're not bringing any politics stuff with us. It's my friend lives down there. I have another friend that moved around Dallas, I think. He coaches at a middle school.
Okay.
He's been trying to get me to go down there. With our governor and the thing we dealt with COVID, we got to leave. I was like, we got to go. Like, we're still sort of shut down. We're supposed to be fully reopened tomorrow or Friday. But yeah, it's Texas on the list. Texas or Indiana, one of the 2.
It's a good spot. It really is, man. I mean, we joke about it all the time. Of course, Texas high school football is what it is down here. And, but the joke is, if you weren't born in Texas, you got here as fast as you could. It's a good place to live. I mean, a lot of the implants right now are coming from California just because of property values and what they're able to move into here in Texas versus what they had out in California is just like astronomically different. And so, but we welcome it. I mean, I know you brought the whole politic thing up. I mean, there's going to be your staunch conservatives that balk at the idea, but Austin is a lot different than the rest of the state. It really is. And then even Hutto is different than Austin. So, I mean, Texas is what it is. It's as big as everybody says it is. And then you throw high school football into it, and it's a whole different world. I lived in Indiana, speaking of Indiana, for 2 years, and everybody equates kind of Indiana basketball with Texas high school football. And I mean, I've been in both worlds, and I got to say, I grew up here and I've lived here, 40 of my 42 years of life. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing like Texas high school football. And, again, we are very proud of it and we boast about it, but I've lived the other life, so to speak. 2 years. Yeah. But 2 years long enough for me to realize basketball in Indiana is big. It's still not football in Texas. It's just not. And so, but it's fun. I mean, it's something that we embrace and we enjoy here. And it doesn't matter if you're in Austin, Houston, Dallas, even out in the plains of West Texas, where I originally grew up. Football is king, man, and it's a way of life down here. So,
yeah, I'm from Central Illinois. Probably it was 40 minutes from Covington, Indiana.
Okay,
probably an hour and a half from Indianapolis. So I grew up in Central Illinois, which is similar to Indiana. But you're right. I've heard all you Texas coaches. I've seen it. Your stadiums are big. I went to Eastern Illinois University. Your stadiums are bigger than that. I get it. That's why it's on my list to go move to. At first, the heat kept me away. I'm a big guy. I played offensive line. I'm a big guy. Me and the Heat don't get along.
I got
But
you.
how hot it's been the last week or so, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I could go to Texas, pay less taxes, coach football, and deal with the heat. I'll be okay. It's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's all relative, right? I mean, we actually practice in the morning to stay away from it. So there's ways around it. The evening games are still going to be warm, especially early September, but about October, it's definitely doable. And then, our playoffs go all the way until December. Of course, if you're lucky enough to play in round 3, 4, 5, you're going to play indoors likely. The likelihood of you playing indoors is pretty high. And so it's not as bad as it may sound or seem. And, again, it's relative. You get used to it. So.
Yeah, well, our schedule screwed up still because of COVID, because everything got crammed for us in the spring. So,
Right.
baseball is ending right now. Track is getting ready to end, so everything's still being used. So, if track has it in the morning, we have to play second fiddle because they're still in season.
I got
Normally,
you.
we go in the morning because I think you guys had a normal season. Ours in Illinois, basketball started, I think January 30th was the first day of basketball practice. They crammed basketball, all winter sports, and all fall and spring until now, from January till now, just crammed. I coach basketball, football, and track. So I had to do basketball, then right into football and track. And it was terrible. And I think you guys had a regular season, right? Like everything went normal.
Yeah, we did. We had to eliminate one game from our regular season. So we played 9 regular season games this year, but the state championship actually pushed into January. We played the state title after come on, Harvey. Sorry, went blank. The college football playoff. So it was like the 23rd of January. So that was weird, a little different, but we got it in, and those teams that went all the way got to play 15 games. Normally it's a 16-game season. So
Wow. See, we usually play 9. We only got 6 this year because
gotcha.
of shrinking it down. The only reason why I remember what day basketball started, because I got COVID the day before it started.
Oh, really?
That's how I remember.
Yeah.
The first day of practice, I was like, hey, I shouldn't show up because I just tested positive. I'm not going to be there. That's how I remember. I'm just getting my smell back. Speaking of that,
Wow.
it's taken this long.
That's nuts.
I don't recommend it.
No doubt. I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate not to have to mess with it yet, but I've known people that obviously have had it, and family members and that type of thing. So,
and we did everything right. Like we weren't sheltered ourselves. Like we went to work. Whatever contact days we had, we went to the grocery store. We weren't these people that just stayed in.
right.
So we did everything right,
Sure.
and still got it. So I said, at this point, man, it lasted probably 5 days or 6 days. I had to quarantine for 10, but for about the 5 or 6 days, if I took the dog outside, I thought I ran 10 miles.
Is that right?
Oh, and then when you couldn't taste the food, have you seen the videos? Like I took a bite of an onion just to see. You couldn't tell at all what it was. I tried to drink black coffee to learn how to do that. You couldn't tell. And then my smell is still messed up. If somebody's grilling, I can't smell it if I'm not by it. If it's far away, I can't smell it. It's bad. Anyway, that's my tangent.
That's not good.
Now I think you're the defensive coordinator, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Now, what kind of I'm going to get technical now. This is the professional side of this.
Sure.
So what defense do you believe in, what you guys run there? Because I've been diving in. I used to coach defense. I coach offense now. I'm diving back in more into defense because everybody's going to a 3-5. Everybody I see. So, what do you guys run? Because I'm very interested in what people run, how they think, how they tick, and why do they run them the way they do?
Sure. Yeah, we're in a tight 4, so that 3 down is definitely something that we're doing. We're still in more of a conventional 3-4 rather than the stack with the 3-5, and we have 2 overhangs though. So we're playing, our 5-man box inside. We're in 4-0 forefront. I'm actually not playing a whole lot of 4 eyes, kind of like that's the big deal. I think some of the OCs are starting to catch on to that, particularly, Coastal Carolina had a really good year this year, and I was watching some of their stuff that Dan Casey had done. And so they were talking about arcing that 4-eye a lot and being able to fan out a lot with the overhangs. And so I really like to play a head up 4. I feel like it causes more, I wouldn't say confusion, but it makes people think a little bit more because they're, we're moving a lot. And so the big question is particularly for the tackles, because we're a head up alignment on the tackles, is which way is this guy going to go? And so with our overhangs, we're playing everything box with them. So we're kind of spilling with our interior guys, boxing with our exterior guys. So it's a both and thing. With the 50 front, you're going to get the majority of the guys going to box, but we kind of do both and. We're cool with spilling it to those dudes. And then one of the things that I do that's a little bit different than others is we're a fast flow concept, right? So we have a call with our front down linemen that we're going to get them into a gap that we call. And then the interior backers, just like in an old school 50 front, they're going to read guards. But what we'll end up with the fast flow concept is we'll have a fitter in what I call the low C, which is basically the crease just outside the tackle. And then the high C fitter is actually going to be our box player. So we have 2 guys that are going to fit that C gap, especially against 10 personnel. You go 11 and 12, you get tight ends in the mix, then it's just old school 50 or a 4-2-5, depending on what you're trying to do. But we really try to rock and roll our fits with our interior backers, have 2 box players as overhangs. And then we have, like I said, 2 fitters in that outside gap, the C gap, whatever flow of the play is, especially with 10 personnel. So we still see a lot of 10 personnel down here. 11 and 20 is coming back into play more and more. I think, especially with RPOs, you get, 2 backs and playing a 20 personnel system. And if you're good enough to have a guy that can play hybrid and really line up attached Y and then maybe, flex out into the slot, we're seeing some different things with that. But that's kind of what we're doing in the box. And then on the back end, I'm a split safety guy. We're going to stay in split safety looks the majority of the time, if not predominantly the whole time. And then we'll scroll and roll into one high looks post snap, just to give a different look. We'll play some both man and zone, primarily a zone team. I think, if you'd ask people, I guess, what the MO for Adam Harvey's defensive backfield would be, it would be press palms. That's something that is a little bit different and a little unconventional that I've done a lot of talks on, especially during COVID. I was able to do a lot of clinics on that. And then, so we're just mixing and matching a lot of that stuff. And just really, I want all 11 guys, to the ball on the runs. And then when we get a pass involved, we want to make sure that, we've got some good match concepts. We got some good country zone concepts, and we're getting after the passer as much as we possibly can, kind of that Don Brown mentality and sending a lot of guys, but also having good dudes on the back end that we can, complement each other and play good, solid defense, not just go balls to the wall, feast or famine type deal. So.
Well, as an O-line coach, run game coordinator, I appreciate the no 4-eye thing because it still bothers us a lot.
Right.
But in my world, I know your defense. In my world, I see a 4-eye, I'm going to trap him. That's just I'm stupid simple when it comes to that.
Sure.
But you're right. I used to coach defense. When you have a 4-eye or anybody that's inside, there's only 1 or 2 places he's going to go, or like mainly one spot he's going to go. When you got me playing offensive tackle and trying to play it in college, you don't know where he's going. Is he going to go out? Is he going to slant in real quick and somebody else is going to replace? You are right. It makes them think. Some people think it's just too basic, but it does a lot. Even if you don't do anything, it makes them think. Especially when you bring an overhang down, now they're thinking even more like, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? You can play games when you're doing an odd man front because everybody's going to that. And that's all we saw all year. I saw one team do a 4-2-5. The rest were 3-5, 3-3. And they love to play games. Yeah. But I do appreciate the no 4-eye thing. That makes me feel pretty good where I don't have to see the 4-eye as much.
Yeah. And, talking about traps and that type of thing, we'll cheat it on occasion if we've got some type of, movement or a stunt called where I need that guy to get to the A gap. Obviously, lining head up might not be the most conducive. So we'll do some stuff in the 4-eyes and even in 3s. I like the old school bear front, and talk about, if I'm going to get trapped, might as well just throw them in the gap right now and say, come trap us, and if you're doing that, then hopefully our fast flow is going to make sure that, we're complementing that type of thing. So we'll do some different things with it, but I really like the head up alignment, especially because the 4-eye is given so many issues. I really think, again, down here is all I can speak for. But I really think OCs are starting to catch on. They're starting to do different things to combat that. And so, that head up thing, like you said, if it just makes them think a little bit more, then I think we've got somewhat of an advantage. I mean, if you're good, you're good. But if we can have some type of advantage, and if it's a wash and 1-to-1, we're good. If you can't double team us because we've lined up and head up and we're hitting the C gap right now. The next time we line up and head up and we're coming into the A gap again with some complementary movement on the second level, I'm all good with it. So,
I'm friends with Coach Nick Davis. He's the DC at Rose-Hulman.
yeah,
I've known him for a couple of years because he's from Charleston, Illinois, and I actually went to school. That's where EIU is, and then I coached at the high school too. So when he recruited, he'd visit. So I'd always talk to him. I asked him just like a week ago, why is everybody going to an odd man front? Because back in the day, you couldn't run that defense unless your nose guard was like 310 pounds. Because you needed
two gapping.
Right, you needed some big guy. And I said, so why are high schools going? Now, I know Texas is different. I can only speak for like Illinois. Like, we're not Texas football. It used to be when you ran a 3-4, it's because you had no talent or something. Or it was you had that big nose guard. Now people are just doing it. Are you finding that you don't really need that? You could have he told me you can have a fast nose guard to slant somewhere. Like, do you need a two gapper, or can you just have a fast kid and just move him?
Absolutely. We're a single gap defense, man. I'd never ask our kids to two gap anywhere. And so you're right. I think that old school mindset mentality was that. But like Coach Davis was saying, and up in your neck of the woods, Wally Kaczynski over at St. Thomas in Minnesota. I love what he talks about with his nose and cutting the field, right? So you can get vertical, and that's kind of a no-no in defensive line talk, right? You don't want to get too far upfield. Don't get too far upfield. Don't chase, blah, 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 blah. But I think from the nose position now, especially if you can penetrate and get some movement and force the ball kind of where you want to, as long as your gap's sound, you're in good shape, and so we'll do some different things with our nose. Again, going back to that being unpredictable part, a lot of times we're not a lag team, but a lot of times we will slant to the backside A, and then get both of our interior backers, complementing that slant. I like to pinch my fours a lot, and so we'll pinch those guys. And again, if I'm sending one to the A gap from one side, send the nose to the front side, and then send the front side to four technique to the C gap. Just different games where you're slanting two gaps on one side and just one on the other. I really think that there's some things that you can do, in the midst of whatever you've already got going that will help, in those areas and situations. And so we do a lot of that. But, yeah, I'm way good with playing one gap, and freaking getting in the backfield and causing problems. One of the things we talk about with our D-line, we have fun with it, it's like, hey, turn those guys into some sissies up there in the front offensive line, and create bubbles and bows is kind of what came to mind one day. What I want them to do is any path. If you get a pulling guard, make him bubble his path or bow his path, So if we're creating bubbles and bows and that's what little girls like, let's make them little girls and let's get after them. And so we've kind of, I guess, made our own with that. We're a little bit undersized, so there's some truth to that. But, we're going to call our defense like an offense, basically, right? I know exactly where I'm going. I know the gap that I have. I don't care what they're doing. It's attack and react rather than react and attack, because we've got to get there right now. And knowing that we're going to get there, again, I've got two fitters at the C gap based on flow. My interior backers are reading guards just like an old school 50. I still have four guys behind because we're going to ask our defensive backs to get involved in the run game as well. And so, with our secondary force, our primary force, we're going to make things happen and we're going to get after people. And sometimes it may look like that we could be out of position or out of shape, and that type of thing. But if I can create a double team, somebody's coming free. And that's what we want. So we have fun with it. And again, we're just trying to be most, if we can be creative with our stunts and we're able to force them to do things that may not be in their game plan because we're a tight four. That's where we want to be. Like midway through the second quarter, if they're kind of scratching their heads, like, where are these guys going? That's exactly what I want. And then I can start sending my 4-man, 5-man, 6-man pressures to add on to that. And now we're really rocking and rolling. So,
Yeah, 'cause I remember being a defensive lineman. When you fired off, you were taught to grab this guy and just bring him in. Now you're seeing more to attack the shoulder almost. So, like, if you're a
Mm.
nose guard or head up, you're attacking a shoulder. And if he comes to double team you, you sink your hip in and you beat the double team. That's what
Yes.
you're seeing a lot more of, like you're describing. Sometimes I think I get too complicated. If a young coach listens to this, I want them to realize what's being said. So, like, you're hitting the shoulder, you're sinking your hips through and cutting up. Um, and as an old lineman, I'll just cut you, but that's my sneakiness. And then another thing Coach Davis had told me, and you just kind of said it, defensive coordinators are starting to, I think, call and install a defense like an offense, where offense, they tried out formation. So me as an offense, we're trying out formation you sometimes. He really does a good job of almost out formationing them on defense. He wants to be simple, but he'll move guys around and he may call the same coverage 4 times in a row, but look different
Yeah.
to really mess with people. And that's what we're doing at my high school is, hey, just put in even just 3 coverages, but if you line up differently every time, just because you put a guy at a certain spot, that offense may not want to go that way with their play, especially with the RPO
Mhm.
world. Like, they don't want to do that. So it sounds like you're kind of doing the same thing, like moving people around and making it look different each and every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times we will kind of stay in the same spot and show the same look, but then move somewhere differently
Mhm.
post snap too, right? So I hear what you're saying. Pre snap, absolutely, we're doing that as well, just based on leverage more than anything. And if you know the coverage or the call, you're in good shape. We do that more with our interior than we do with the back end. But then with the back end, and we may give you a split safety look all night long, and like as I said earlier, roll post snap, and we're really in a 1 high. And so we've had a lot of fun with that. My previous school, Cibolo Steel, we had some dudes in the backfield, and I was defensive back coach, co-defensive coordinator, and so back then, 2-3 years ago, when I had some cats running around, we had 2 5-stars that came out of there. One just got drafted by the Broncos, the other's at Texas A&M. I have one at Baylor, 2 at UTSA in San Antonio, 1 at SMU. I mean, dudes, and so with those guys, we were able to show a 2 high shell, and even from 12 yards, sometimes 15, if the kid was good enough, we could scroll all the way down and play like a Sky 3 or a Ripley's match, and he was the scroll player. When you can do that stuff, I mean, those guys make you look like a better coach than you really are, right? But I think, kind of like you were saying, I mean, it's fun to be able to kind of like with an offensive mindset of, I'm going to throw 8,000 formations at you and run 3 plays. If we can throw some different things at you alignment wise and run 3 coverages, or show the same alignment and run multiple coverages, I think that again, it's a chess match, like like we all talk about. That's what it is. It's a chess match. But I think if defensively with the RPO thing, if you got 2 overhangs and you can complement those guys with split safeties, and then those 4 guys are really playing again your crease and your alley, then your corners, if they're tough enough, which I require mine to be tough, they can now play force. So one of the things I talk a lot about, and just mentioned it this morning to our kids, like if we're talking about A, B, and C, that's interior stuff, and the C gap is the crease. And so your crease can extend depending on splits and where the receivers are and what they're trying to run. Wide zone, obviously the crease is going to be bigger, and inside zone, it may be a little bit tighter and whatnot. But one of the things that we talked about was, you got A, B, C, and then it becomes a little bit of a crapshoot once you're outside those C gaps. You got CAF, right? So you got your crease, your alley, and then your force. Well, if we can keep it, kind of consistent yet complex is the wrong word, but consistent yet different, right? And just playing games like you were saying, and I can fold my corners underneath and play alley. Now my safeties can play force. Well, I've squeezed everything. Go back to Wally Kaczynski and how he cuts the field interiorly. If I'm getting a lot of jet sweeps and I'm able to fold my corner up to fit in the alley where my safety's scrolling from the roof, that's a really tough block for anybody that's supposed to hit him on a jet sweep, And so the corner may slip by somebody that's trying to get out wide, and now we've got a good opportunity to make a play. And it looks like a trap, I guess, really from the corners, where really they're just filling the alley and fitting that. And so, and one of the things that's been good with that is, so like, if you're reading pass now, we do a lot of, again, press palms to read. Well, nothing changes from me getting hands on because I'm a press guy. I want to get hands on and shoot my eyes inside. Well, what's happening inside is is really not irrelevant necessarily, but it's really just going to kind of make me play a little bit faster or make me react to what I see. And so if it's a pass, I'm still in the same shape that I would be if I'm going to fold underneath and play the alley right now, if I'm playing force or whatever we have called. So we have a lot of fun with that. And our kids, I think when they begin to understand that, like they did a couple of years ago there at Cibolo Steel, that's when you become a pretty dang good defensive unit, because I'm really, really big on – we talk about it, and it's cliche as defensive coordinators, but I am really big on truly having 11 hats in the fit, right? I want 11 hats in the fit. I don't care if the ball is going away from you, to you. You know where your fit is, and if we can fit it up properly, then we're going to be pretty good, and obviously force them to throw the ball, because I still believe, even in the world of spread offenses and how many people are just slinging it all over the yard, you stop the run and you can run the football, you're going to be a successful football team. So that's what we're going to do first. And, at Hutto, and anytime I'm coaching defense, we're going to stop the run and then force those guys to put the ball in the air. And, now it's a crapshoot. You better be pretty good athletes to be able to beat us, because we got two safeties on the roof that are playing back there. Sometimes they're playing free. Sometimes they're playing halves. Sometimes they're playing quarters. And so we just want to try to keep everybody off balance in that manner.
The Coach Steve Show is sponsored by the Launchpad Kickoff Tee. If you're a football coach out there, high school, college, NFL, doesn't matter, and you're looking for that edge for your special teams, for your kicker, for the kickoff, onsides, you guys need to go to launchpadkickoff.com. If you have a younger guy trying to develop the kicker, you want the ball to get to the end zone, you need to go to Launchpad Kickoff Tee. This tee gives a coach a strategic options for squib kicks, onsides, everything. It is proven that your kicker will kick off farther. It is legal for NCAA, for high school, okay? The Launchpad Kickoff Tee is a game changer. So if you go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS to use the code CSS, you can get a Launchpad Kickoff Tee for 10% off. So go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS. You can use the code CSS for the Coach Steve Show to get 10% off. Also, there's a bundle. You can get one for 10% off. You can go to two and get more % off, or there's an option to buy four. If you click the option to buy the 4 kickoff tees, if you like it so much, when you use the code CSS, you'll get the 4th one free. So instead of paying full price for all 4, you'll get 3. So go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS, use the code CSS, get 10% off, buy 4 to get the 4th one free. This is a game changer, guys. It does more than just hold your balls. Go get the Launchpad Kickoff Tee today to give your kicker an edge for next season. As you guys know, the Coach Steve Show is also brought to you by the Unhinged Sports Network. The Unhinged Sports Network is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, nonstop playing radio podcast about any sport that you guys can imagine. They have a proud partnership with Fanatics. So if you go to the link in the description, go to Fanatics, use that link, and go get some gear to support the Coach Steve Show and to support the Unhinged Sports Network. They have deals all the way up to 70% off. They have deals for free shipping, and they have every single sports team you could think of. Your college team is going to be on there. Your professional team is going to be on there. They have good deals on jerseys, T-shirts, hats, socks, anything you want. So please use the link in the description to go to fanatics.com. Save big on your team's gear to help support the Unhinged Sports Network and to support the Coach Steve Show. You guys seeing offenses kind of go back to what they used to? Like you said earlier, sometimes you see 11 personnel, 12 personnel. I know up in Illinois, we're starting to see it kind of go backwards. We all went to spread. Now we're coming back. Like this year, we had a hand down tight end and a wing at the same time with 2 receivers on the other side. Like we're coming back. It's all coming full circle. So I don't know for you guys, are you seeing offenses starting to buck sweep days? Are they coming back to we're gonna have this wing and motion around option? Is it all just coming back?
Yeah, we are. The 11 personnel hybrid thing, I think, is probably the biggest difference, because I don't know that like down here in Texas, there's offensively the tight end spot is kind of an anomaly. And then defensively, that linebacker too. It's like linebacker / safety. Those are the guys that are, if you can play those positions, you're going to get recruited. And then if you can help your high school team out, that puts a lot of headaches, I think, on the opposition, really, is that hybrid player on both sides of the field. So yeah, to answer your question, we're not seeing a ton of wing, unless it's a triple option team in the wing T stuff. But we're seeing some bunch. The Buck sweep thing, I think Buck is a really good play, and whether it's the ebbs and flows of ball or the ebbs and flows of ball, and it's always going to be that way, I think. But I would say that more often than not, we're seeing 11 and 20 if a team has that personnel. Like our offense really doesn't. But we're trying, because it does. It creates headaches for the opposition. We're more of a 10 personnel team. We got a lot of undersized, quick receivers. We got a slot that Stephen F. Austin camp last night ran a 4.3, which is a lot of fun. So we're doing a lot of those with jet sweeps and that type of thing. And then on the other side of the slot is a 45-foot triple jumper, who can really scoot himself. And then on the outsides, we're not real big, but we've got good route runners and strong kids. So we're seeing a lot more 10 with those types of teams. But, in our league, we got a team in our league that won the league this past year that was in 12 personnel the majority of the night, just pounding the rock, just coming right at us, And so we were playing bear front. So talk about old school. It was 12 versus bear all night, So yeah, for sure.
Because I'm 30. I've been coaching for 13 years. I did it since I was 18. That's what it was. It used to be old school, then it went spread. Now it's like every time I talk to somebody, well, what do you do with your tight end coming back down? What do you do when there's a tight end and an H-back? I'm like, oh, now we're bringing it all back. We used to be – I love the air raid passes, don't get me wrong, but we're all just coming back.
Yeah.
And to me, it's flip-flopping from defense. Like I said earlier, defense was the old school. You need a two-gap or you need this, you need this. You guys are starting to become fast and physical and still strong. And offenses went to the spread. Now we're kind of coming back. So as you guys start to really figure out the spreads and how to stop them, we're coming back because we're assholes. We want to bring it back.
Absolutely. Well, no doubt. I mean, the same conversation with, the 4-eye thing and what's happening there. I mean, Saban gets on his Zoom a couple of months ago and talks about offensive guys becoming the tower. They're the Taliban, and I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And that's what makes it fun to me. Again, it's such a chess match. This game is, I love it because, I talked to kids again this morning. We talked about being 1/11th. You're 1/11th of the success, or you could be 1/11th of the problem. But guess what? That 1/11th could really be a game-breaking play or a game-breaking player. You know what I mean? So you got to come to the table, and you hear that. If you hear that fraction, it's not a lot. I don't know what percentage it is. It's less than 1. I can tell you that, but it's not a lot. And so as you're coming to that mindset, understand I don't have a lot, but at the same time, that your 1/11th could make the difference in whether or not we make a stop, whether or not we give up a touchdown. And, with the schematics and coaching, I mean, we've got 6 guys on the defensive side of the ball. And again, going back to that 12 personnel, team last year, they did still flip personnel. And so, I had one guy in the box, and his one job was to make sure that, hey, if, I don't remember the kid's number 48, let's just say, if number 48's in the game, you're screaming the buzz phrase to make sure that we are in the right personnel on our end, because we're going to be in bear front, but we got to have big bodies. They're going to pound it. And so I think it's just really, really fun. But yeah, also important that we're understanding that circulation and the ebbs and flows and what goes around comes around. Once we find some success with that spread stuff, just like back in the day, once we found success with the old school tight end stuff, 11 and 12 and 21 personnel stuff, you guys have to make adjustments, and then we've got to make adjustments, and it is what it is. And so, I just have fun with it, man. That's why I eat, sleep, and breathe ball, because, it's a never ending deal, and we'll always be on top of, of our game. But at the same time, we know that you guys are studying in the other room, and we've got to make sure we're able to adjust and react accordingly.
Do you actually get any sleep as a defensive coordinator? Because when I coached defense, I didn't get sleep with that.
Yeah, that's funny. It depends on the week, man. I really one of the things that I've really enjoyed about being a DC is kind of, and I mentioned it earlier, I listen to Jim Knowles talk about calling the defense like an offense, right? And so if I've got every gap fit, let's just hypothetically talk for a second. If I've got every gap fit, secondary is kind of just second nature to me. That's where I've been the majority of my career is on the back end. And so it is what it is back there. But if my box players are good and golden, like I really just hope that our technique, and I'm a big technician when it comes to the little things and footwork and hand placement you talked about earlier. It's kind of how some of that has changed. I mean, that at the end of the day is where we are going to win or lose ball games, right? We're going to lose reps, as I said a minute ago. And so, trust my coaches that they're teaching those little things right, touching on the little things that are going to make us different. But as far as just making the right call, again, I've done a lot of research, and I feel like if I can single gap things out, we're straight, and then those coverages have to make sure that they've got a perimeter gap fit. We're good. And so I really try not to, and I don't want to sound like I know everything. I don't. We were 4-5 this last year and sitting home during the playoffs. And defense made their fair share of mistakes. We were young. I think we're going to be good next year. Got a really good inside linebacker crew. And so I think if our kids buy into what we're doing, you said it, the two words, fast and physical is part of our motto. But like our whole overall motto at Hutto defensively is MODE, MODE. So I'm a big acronym guy, and it stands for making our discipline elite, right? So I'm a big Brian Kite, Tim Kite fan where they talk about it all the time. How do you be elite? And the shortcut is discipline and all of those things. Well, if I am in the process of making my play and making my discipline elite, I'm a disciplined player and a disciplined football team. We've got the calls, and we're going to put you guys in position. Now you've got to do the little things right. Make sure your discipline is elite every play, and let's roll. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I try not to think too much beyond what I can control. Again, to use the cliche, control the controllables, control what you can control. And I know I need some sleep because I'm 42 now, and I don't have the energy that I used to. So I'm not going to go throw a couple of bangs in the morning, or Red Bulls or whatever. And so my coffee is going to have to do me in, and I just got to trust that my coaches are doing, what they need to do, and my kids are bought into our process. And then if they are, we're going to play pretty good defense because we're going to fly around. That's for sure.
Well, speaking of bangs, that's what I was having as we were having.
I noticed. Is that Rainbow Unicorn?
Yeah, that's that one.
We've been busting one of our young coaches' balls for drinking Rainbow Unicorn all year. So
I tried it one day. It's really delicious. I don't know. I have a problem.
No, that's good. I've actually had a bang. They do taste pretty good. So we've got a lot of coaches in the office that have tossed those suckers down, man. So all good.
But I have a rule. I can't drink any of them after 3 o'clock. If it gets closer to that, I am not allowed to have caffeine after that moment.
Good for you. Good for you.
I get up really early in the morning and have coffee, and then later on in the day I can have that. Especially COVID, where I was coaching. I did 3 sports in one day one time. I needed that.
I feel you, man. I actually was part of that 3-sport fiasco this year myself. Just COVID and job changes and all the jazz that's going on, man. Sometimes you got to just bite the bullet and go after it. But, man, I was definitely tired. In fact, last week I didn't hardly do anything, man. I just wanted to relax before we, began our summer camp stuff this week. And even this week, I'm just noticing myself tired, and so I got to replenish a little bit, make sure I'm taking care of my body. But I'll be ready to go in the fall, guaranteed. I love football and already am stoked, and can't wait till the season begins and we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, I haven't had a break yet. I got done with track Thursday. I had Friday off. We still had school. Then Saturday, we had to go coach 2 or 3 basketball games. And Sunday. And then Monday rolled around. Football in the morning, basketball in the afternoon. Like, I haven't stopped yet.
Yeah. And you're doing the show too. So, man, you're rolling, bro.
End of June, there's like a week off where there's nothing. And that's what I plan on doing. Going off the grid and doing nothing. Because we need that. We need to do nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. If you can get off the grid and, do nothing, that's perfectly okay. And, in fact, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I actually threw out a tweet that just stuff that I'm always trying to get better with, self-care stuff, It's like, you got these guys that are take no days off guys. You get, you even have the acronym for it, T-shirts, TNDO, all that. And then you've got guys that are work smarter, not harder, right? And so one of the questions that just kind of I've been pondering, can you be both? How can you really maximize your time? I don't know about the whole take no days off. That's pretty extreme. But how can you be a really, really hard worker and yet work smart at the same time? And, but I think and one of the responses on there was really good. Rest hard. It was a phrase that was brought up. And I think that's part of it. Rest is part of working hard. So how do you continue to empty your tank on a daily? And, we do this as coaches because you have to. If you don't, you're going to lose kids, and then to me, it's the most important thing. And part of what we do is relationships. And that can become cliche too. But I mean, if I'm texting a kid and he doesn't really know that my best interest is for him, but he thinks that I'm just doing it because I'm the DC and I want to be successful as a DC, well, he's the reason I'm a good DC at the end of the day, right? So I think also with that rest portion, we've got to learn how to turn it off, and not really use a dimmer. And I tell all the time, like I'm coaching my nine-year-old's baseball team right now, just on the side, obviously volunteer. And I'm not very good at coaching 9-year-olds. I'm just not. I've got a light switch instead of a dimmer, and it's either on or off, right? And so when it's off, man, I'm chill. I can listen to the most chill music and sit down and do absolutely nothing and be fine with it. But when the light switch turns on, between the lines, all that stuff that we talk about, man, I'm going balls to the wall. And if the scoreboard is on or I know somebody's keeping score, I cannot help but flip the light switch on. I just can't. Like, it's just not in my DNA, right? So I'm yelling at 9-year-olds out there, and we're trying to, it's funny too, because the other guy that asked me to coach, he's a defensive coordinator on the other side of Austin. So you got two DCs out there running around a bunch of 9-year-olds. Boy, talk about an interesting bit.
No,
but it's good, man. It's good to get away and rest. I'm with you, bro.
I used to coach middle school basketball for 2 years, and I quickly realized I cannot coach middle school kids. I have to be high school kids because I am too intense, because I'm good with mistake making, but after a while, I just turns on and the football coach in me comes out, and I'm like, I am meant to be with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. I can't handle 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds. They can't handle it.
I'm with you.
I'm like, start bear crawling. Oh, wait a minute, they're 12-year-olds. You can't be making them bear crawl on the basketball court. And
right.
I agree, because my time off used to be reading the football books, but what happens is I'm reading it and I go, oh, that's good. And I just keep going. And I'm like, now I'm not even taking time off. Like, I should be watching Netflix or something for a day, like just do nothing.
Sure.
I don't get time off though. Like, it's hard to take time off, because then when I do time off, I try to do this, and I'm like, are you really taking time off, or are you just that addict in us? You have to talk football, you have to talk whatever, and Dave Chappelle, you start itching. Like, you got any more of those topics? Like, that's what happens. Like,
right. No, you definitely have to make yourself, because that's just how we're wired. I mean, it is what it is. But I think it's really, really important, and that we rest hard. As I mentioned a minute ago. So.
And last thing, 'cause I know you got to go. The reason why we're like that is because when we asked, I said this the other day to somebody, when we ask these kids to give us their all, they got school, they have football, they've got a social life, they've got whatever home life they have. We're asking them to give us everything they have. We have to do the same. So that means reaching out to coaches and fine tuning what we want to learn, clinics, show up to practice early to set things up, staying after coaches meetings, the film watching, and we have it easy. That's the easy job. Right. But if we don't do that for them, they're going to see that very quickly of like, you don't care, and you're asking us to do this. Like, when we all played sports, there was never why. We never asked why. We just did it. Nowadays, there's a why factor of like, why should I do this if you're not doing this? So we really have to show that we're doing that, or they're not stupid. They're going to sniff out real quick what you're about if you're not doing that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can read right through the BS. You better be authentic, man, and because authenticity, again, will go a long way. If you want to be successful, then you got to have some kids that are making plays. It is what it is. So.
No, but Coach, I know you got to go. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll get you back on again, and you can talk to me more about your coverages, because I'm really interested in your palm read stuff. That's very
yeah. I'd love that, man. I appreciate you reaching out, and I'd love to get back on at some point after you rest, of course. So you go and do that, and then we'll figure out a time, man.
I hate the term grind, but truly right now the grind has not stopped, and I don't know when it's going to stop.
Real.
The grind is real right now.
Yeah.
And then in June, I'm just going to sleep. It's going to be
There you go.
sleep. No, but I appreciate you coming on. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Coach Harvey. What's your Twitter real quick so they can go follow you?
Yeah. It's Coach_Harvey and then the number 18. So hit me up on there. I'm on there quite a bit. It's a great way to network and love to talk ball anytime. So you can also follow my my chat. We do a defensive back chat talking about coverages. That's No Fly Zone Chat, and that's I think at No Fly Zone Chat #1 is the handle there. So
and
that's Tuesday nights, 8:30 Central Time.
Okay, literally before I hit end recording, are offensive guys allowed to be a part of that? That's my
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, that's funny because the whole chalk words thing that came out during the pandemic, that was an idea that I had kind of thought of, and Matt Arafat, the guy that ended up running the chalk words thing, he and I talked. He's a defensive guy too, but we thought, man, this would be a lot of fun. We were going to do it with some receiver coaches through No Fly Zone Chat, and then it really took in mind and took a whole turn on its own, which was great. Matt did a phenomenal job with that. But yeah, absolutely, you're welcome to, and get on there and challenge us, you know, and you know, kind of figure out what we're thinking whenever you're in, you know, FIB or whatever. I think that's good. Again, as you said earlier, you know, just sharpening one another, and we're all about it. You know, shoot, I just love to talk ball, man. I don't care who it is. So.
All right. Well, thanks again, Coach. Thanks everybody for listening.